Okay, good.
Good? Hello, Facebook. Dr. Brett Spradlin, Divine Design Natural Health, here today, June 4th, food, GMOs, and HMOs. This is the next installment of our groundbreaking, revolutionary mini-series called Wellness Workshops, or WellWorks for short. We're going to break right into this wonderful crowd of raucous people. Hey, everybody freak out and give some applause. Yeah. They're out of control. They're out of control. I can't hold them back. Come on in. Fill up the back there. Fill it all up. But we're getting ready to start here, but I do want to do an old tradition that I started a little while ago, was to read some testimonials, just so some of the stuff that we just covered a little bit ago about why we get the results we get, some of the reasons why people are here, from the Google testimonials, the Facebook testimonials. You know, I want to read you some fresh stuff so that you can understand exactly, this is not me writing it, this is just stuff that people have written within the last, probably about the last 2 weeks since we had the last class, just so you know where we're heading. Because we're going to tie some things together for you tonight about GMOs and HMOs. How many of you know what GMOs are, first of all? Genetically modified organisms? Yes? Everyone has heard of that. No one here in this room has gone through the world with not detecting the fact that we're genetically modifying organisms for our food, right? And then what are HMOs? Everybody's familiar with HMOs? No? Health management organizations?
Right.
Oh, okay.
HMOs, yeah. Yeah, health management.
Okay,
Oh,
I was thinking.
yeah. Okay, I was beginning to think I was in an alternate universe there. Health management organizations, or an organization that tells you who you go see, right? They manage your health. It's a health management organization. It's an organization that manages your health, right? So we're going to talk about that, but I want you to keep in mind, these are all people that started out just like you. They heard from a friend who heard from a friend who heard from a friend, word of mouth, friends and family referrals, and they said, hey, go to this building with no sign and talk to this guy who doesn't advertise, and he's going to change your life. That's how it all started. How did it start with you? That's how it all started, correct? So here we are, and we're doing the same thing we did the day we opened our doors, and guess what? We're just doing it at a bigger volume, at a bigger rate. Here goes. A couple of testimonials. When we do testimonials, we don't coach people on what to say. They might come in and they say, oh, I'm doing better, I'm sleeping better, I'm feeling better, I'm going to the bathroom, twice a week now, which is 50% better than I was doing. Hear that all the time. It's crazy. And I say, well, great. That's a victory that someone else would really probably appreciate hearing. So do you mind if you write that down? Can you write that down? Everybody in this room who's a patient here, you've heard me say that. Can you write that down? Here are, how were you before, how are you now? It's that simple. We don't ask them to get real elaborate. I used to go upstairs one leg at a time, bringing one foot up to another, going in half steps. Now I go upstairs like normal. It's been 5 or 6 months since I've been able to do this. Big deal? A lot of people would say, not a big deal, but she's 90 years old.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, okay? I ate relatively healthy before the purification, which is a system that we put somebody on, just a 3-week thing to change how they eat. It's the healthiest 3 weeks of eating they've ever experienced as a human on this planet, I can assure you. And guess what? It's easy. How many of you have done it? 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8 people in this room have done it. It's super easy. And the ones who haven't done it yet, you're going to do it soon. So the purification. I had done hard, short-term diets before, but never quite this intense. And all it is it's very simple. It's food. It's plants and animals. That's all it is. Just make sure those don't fall on people. Do we have any cardboard or anything? I'll let you guys handle it.
We did. There was cardboard, but we think on it.
Oh, that'll work. That'll work, yeah. Just make sure we don't get too loud and bring the walls down. Okay. After the purification, I felt like I could survive any diet. It's not torture. I was able to find many delicious recipes that I'll continue to use. The key to success is planning. Deciding what to eat is much easier when you have a well-stocked fridge with great options. I feel great and feel like I can continue to eat a healthy lifestyle for life. How many of you know, if you change somebody's diet, heck, you don't even need to change their diet. Facebook, I'll change your breakfast and we'll change your life. Guess what? You change a third of their diet. You change their breakfast, you change a third of their diet, you change their life. People who think that, oh, food doesn't matter, I've heard gastroenterologists tell patients that the Crohn's disease doesn't matter, isn't dependent upon their diet. Are you out of your mind? I will look you dead in the eye and say, let's talk, because you don't know anything. But right here, somebody learned how to eat. For the first time in their known existence, they ate not from a can, a box, a bag, or a microwave. Think about it. Have you ever gone 3 weeks without eating from a can, a box, a bag, or a microwave? Very few people in this room could say yes, unless You've been here unless you've done this, right? That's getting back to the basics of human health. Only within the last, 80, 90, 100 years have we been able to box, bag, and can all of our food to the point where it's dead. And then we wonder why we're dead. We wonder why we're sick. We wonder why we're tired. We don't have any energy. Why? I just told you. Right here, just 2 months ago, I had debilitating cramps, physically couldn't get out of bed, had to be on strong pain meds to function. Could you believe it? 3 months after being on the nutrition that was advised, virtually no cramps. Women, how many of you have problems with cramps and pain and bleeding and stuff about once a month? Big deal, right? It's a big deal. All right. Mood swings, insane, virtually no cramps, pain, or mood swings. Insane and crazy, but I promise Dr. Brett is thebomb.com. I did not tell her to write that. I know who that is, by the way. And her dad's a doctor, by the way. That's kind of funny. I feel full of energy, feel I could run a race. When I take a bath, I can feel my spine against the tub and haven't been this small since I was 14 years old. Wow. Looking toward to, size 10. Thanks, Dr. Brett. Didn't make that up. She could feel her spine on the tub. That's a big deal. Oh, here's a brand new one, too. This is great. With my first pregnancy, we've got, I think, about 5 pregnant patients right now, you know. And they all have had different varying degrees of nausea in the first trimester. And I figured out why. It finally hit me one day, why women are nauseous during pregnancy. If you want to hear that, stick around afterwards, and this might melt your whiskers. This might blow your face off, because I finally figured it out. I always wondered. With my first pregnancy, without Divine Design, I was nauseous, throwing up, exhausted in the first trimester. I took the toxic prenatals that my OB recommended. By the way, this woman is in healthcare. With probably, I'd say, a good 30 or 40% of our practice is other healthcare professionals, whether it be nurse practitioners, PAs, nurses, oncology nurses, end-of-life, what do you call it, nurses, hospice, thank you, whoever, yeah, exactly. Hospice nurses, respiratory therapists, you name it, dentists, you name it. Why do they come here?
They want the truth.
Huh?
They want the truth.
They come here because they want the truth, and they don't want what?
Medicines.
Correct. That is exactly correct. So, I did not take the toxic prenatals that my OB recommended. I didn't say it, she said it. I did not sleep well at all starting about week 28 and was always exhausted. I was just lacking something. My current program is completely different. I was not nauseous at all, slept well. Even now, still, she's 40 weeks. Her due date was today. I told her there's an adjustment we can do right now that would, just kidding. Not completely exhausted, even with chasing a 3-year-old around. This pregnancy has been so much easier in many ways, and I 100% believe it's from this program and gaining the knowledge over the past year about food and supplements. So very thankful I came in a year ago to better prepare me for this awesome pregnancy. I hear all day long women say, my pregnancy was horrible, I don't want to have another kid. I hear it all day long. And I say, you haven't done it this way. Because guess what? It's a whole new ballgame. That's proof right there. I love that. Here's a great one too. My 15-year-old daughter had persistent nausea and vomiting following a stomach virus. She was vomiting multiple times each night and feeling nauseated throughout the day. For weeks, she barely slept or ate and spent most days in bed. This is a 15-year-old daughter. How many of you, that's a big deal? Big deal? That's a big deal. She barely slept or ate and spent most days in bed. We even had to pull her out of school and set up homebound education. Seriously. After multiple doctor's visits, including a gastroenterologist and 2 trips to the ER, a tentative diagnosis of gastroparesis was given. What's gastroparesis? Not even important, just a big scary word to make you fearful.
Paralysis of the stomach.
That is correct. Paralysis of the stomach. Does it tell you why the stomach is paralyzed?
No.
It tells you jack squat, bo diddly, bo cephas, nothing, nada. It tells you nothing. Gastroparesis, just big giant word for fear. That's all that is, isn't it? Gastroparesis. Tentative diagnosis of gastroparesis was given. Children's Hospital scheduled an endoscopy and a biopsy, and we were told she might need a feeding tube. How many of you know as a parent, are you freaking out or are you freaking out? Right? I called Divine Design, got an appointment the following week. Dr. Brett started laser therapy and chiropractic on the first visit, sent us home with supplements and advice to avoid gluten and soy. That's 4 of the easiest things you can possibly do right there. My daughter began to improve almost immediately, and within 2 weeks, she had her first full night, sleep and no vomiting. It's been several weeks now. My daughter's completely healthy. No nausea, no vomiting, no biopsy, no feeding tube, no gastroparesis. Right there. That's a big deal. Right there, that's a big deal. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this. That's the simplicity of it. So let's get right down to brass tacks here and tell you. If you are here, you are in the right place. If you want to make changes. If you want someone to give you a magical pill, you are in the wrong office because it doesn't exist. It's a magical place that does not exist. If you want a pill, there's no shortage of chop shops and pharmaceutical labs all around this place where you can go and you can get your drug of choice. All you got to do is ask your doctor for the purple pill and he will give it to you. I promise. You will be given a plethora of pharmaceutical toxic poisons to wreak havoc upon your body. However, here, we understand things in a whole different light because every drug that's created has a toxic side effect to the human body because they suppress, block, or inhibit your physiology. Just look at the names of the drugs. Beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, proton pump inhibitors, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It's right in the name of the drug. It shuts down physiology. So if you shut down natural human physiology, what are you going to have downstream? You're going to have side effects. You're going to have other problems. Okay? Nobody tells you that. Why? Well, the commercials tell you, but the commercials don't have to see you face to face, do they? So how many people go to the doctor and get a drug and they don't even know the side effects? They don't know that their headaches that they've been experiencing for months are coming from the drug that they've been on for years. They don't know. It's not because they're stupid people. They've just never been told. They trusted the dude in the white coat, and the dude in the white coat trusted the college cheerleader drug rep, and the college cheerleader drug rep trusted her boss that bought her the Mercedes. And I know these people. I know this is how it works. I worked in a hospital for 3 years. I'm not making this up. Come on now. I know better. So it's just this long line of who said, she said, he said, what said, and nobody really understands why everybody's getting sicker in the United States, but we have all the drugs, all the surgeries, and all the vaccines. Go do the math. When was the last time you saw a school full of healthy kids playing on the playground? No, now you see schools for autism. Now you see kids getting bigger, getting diagnosed with diabetes at age 12, and being put on metformin, Adderall, Ritalin, and all kinds of other toxic stuff. That's the next generation, folks. That's your grandkids. Guess what? If you don't do something about it now, you're in deep doo-doo. Deep doo-doo. Your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids. So, if you're in the right mindset and you're here, it's time that you do something. All those people you know who are sick that come to mind right now that I'm talking about, oh yeah, so-and-so's on metformin. They've had diabetes for 30 years. They still have diabetes and they're still taking metformin. You're thinking of this, all the women you know on Synthroid? Oh, all the women you know. I'd have to take off my shoes to count the number of women that I knew back in the day. Everyone I worked with at the hospital that were on Synthroid, every one of them. They were nurses, every one of them. So, if you want to do something, you're in the right spot. If you want to just come and say, hey kid, nice TV show, nice commercial, great, yeah, peace, bye. If you want to do that, that's fine. But you will hear this information at some point, whether it's from me or from somebody else. You're going to hear it because the tide is turning. How do I know? How do I know? Amazon bought Whole Foods. That's how I know. They're waking up. How do I know? Black box warning on pharmaceutical ads. How do I know? The pharmaceutical ads on TV. How do I know? The massive suspicion that people have about pharmaceuticals. How do I know we're winning? How do I know the age of medicine is over? Look at what's going on. Look at what's going on. People are fighting for their food, for the right to know what's labeled in their food. You can't take the label off your mattress legally. But they don't want to tell you what's in the food? Think about it. Really think about it. Let that sink in for a minute. Really let that sink in. So, you're in the right spot. How's it affecting you? What's your future like if you don't do something? If you have a problem that's going on and you do nothing to change it, is it going to get better or is it going to get worse? Let me hear everybody. Come on now. Worse, right? If you continue to do the same thing you've always done, you're going to continue to get the same thing you always had, right? And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting different results, right? So that's why you're here. Hello, welcome to the reason why you're here. Welcome to the reason somebody told you about us, right? So it depends on the level of seriousness that someone's at. If someone wants to get really serious about it and they're ready to go, we're ready to go. Believe me, we're more committed than most people are when they walk in here because we have the conviction that we know what we're doing. And we have the conviction and we have the value of the value that we place on what we do is priceless. Why? Because if we can save you 30 years in a nursing home and save you a $50,000 diagnosis and surgery on a stage 4 somethingoma, that you don't want, that's priceless. If we can give you 10, 15, 20, 30 more years with your family, priceless. So if people think they can't afford it, they can't afford not to afford it. Seriously, it's crazy. How many of you in here, Pat, was it worth it?
Oh, yeah.
Faye, was it worth it?
100%.
Vernon, was it worth it? Yeah? Right on. Was it worth it?
Absolutely.
Right on. Okay. I didn't coach any of these guys. So there's hope. If you're ready to do something, if you know somebody who's ready to do something, not just namby-pamby, white bread, dilettantes wandering around saying, well, I don't know why my blood sugar's through the roof. I just don't know what to do. I'll tell you why your blood sugar's through the roof. It's because of what you eat. It didn't fall out of an alien mothership. It came from blood sugar. It's right in the name. Nobody told you that one, did they? Diabetics. It's right in the name. Blood sugar. The sugar is in your blood because how did the sugar get in your blood? Food. How else is it going to get there? An injection? How else are they going to put it there? How else are you going to get that food there? The blood. So see, it's something as simple as that. Simple as that. So if somebody's ready to do something, there's hope, and this is the place. So, a few things. I want to write out now what they seem. We're going to make two charts here. GMOs and HMOs. Okay? Not what they seem. What do I mean by that? We'll talk about it. Well, let's switch these around. We're going to go in reverse order. I'm going to make it really fun. GMOs, HMOs. Well, GMOs, HMOs. Now what they seem, hidden dangers. This is a little something that I made up about 2 years ago. Problem source is ignored because I thought I see patterns. I'm very good with patterns. Then liberty is assaulted, and y'all can, if y'all want to write this down, it's not copywritten or anything. I'll allow it. And then costs and overtime. Oh, yeah. All right, we're going to make a little chart here. GMOs and HMOs, how are they the same? Not what they seem. What is an HMO to most people? What is insurance? Let's just call HMO is just a little acronym for what we're going to say is insurance. Now, I am not here to say don't get insurance. I am not here to say, well, yeah, sort of. Yeah, actually, yeah. You're thinking my thoughts. I actually am saying insurance is betting against yourself. What we do here is betting on yourself. That's all you need to know. Now, I'm not saying don't do Good Samaritan. I'm not saying don't do Liberty Health Share. What I am saying is, why does Blue Cross Blue Shield need to jack you for $600 or $800 or $900 a month, or for a family the average is what, $1,200, $1,800 a month, I believe. I taught a whole class on the business of being sick back in January, and it was all about weighing out the options between your insurance premiums, deductibles, co-pays, co-insurance, and prescription costs, and then what we do. It's the first class I ever taught where I actually talked about money, because I just don't talk money with people. I let Hannah and Sarah and Faye and everybody handle that. I just don't talk money with people. I just don't even go there. So what I do say is this. Your insurance is betting against you, and your insurance is only going to pay for something that you don't want. In most cases, people say, well, I went to the doctor and he just wrote me a prescription and I didn't take it. Oh, well, great. That was wonderful. Money well spent. You paid for your premium, deductible, copay, co-insurance, prescription costs, and then you just didn't take the drug that they gave you. That was great. You totally got ripped off. Right? What they're not getting is the premiums give them access to a system that only gives them two options, drugs and surgery. Well, three options, drugs, surgery, or unnecessary procedures. See how that works? So if you're paying all that stuff into a system that you don't want in the first place, double whammy. You're shooting yourself in the right foot by paying it, and then you're shooting yourself in the left foot by not wanting what you're paying for. Do you understand the simplicity of how stupid that is? Yeah. So what I tell people is, why not put your money in your health care? And then, if you have a trip to the emergency room for when little Susie breaks her arm, pay the $2,000, be done with it, and actually, here's a little trick, pay them cash. Guess what will happen to the price? It'll be cut in half. I just saved you $1,000 right there. That, I can treat you for 3 months. Right there, I just saved you money. Understand? Yeah. Okay, so HMOs, they're not what they seem. They say they're for protection, but they're not, okay? What are they really protecting you from? You gotta protect yourself. Insurance. What if I get in a car accident? Well, that's why you have car insurance. But what if I slip and fall somewhere? Then there's liability insurance for the business that you were in where you slipped and fell. So why are you worried? So what I'm trying to say is this. You don't always have to have insurance for every single thing, because what's the deal? Well, what if I get a diagnosis? A diagnosis of what? Well, what if I get cancer? You can only get cancer a couple of ways. If you stay away from those ways, then I can pretty much assure you, for the most part, that you will not be diagnosed with cancer, and therefore you would have signs and symptoms appearing way ahead of time. How many times does somebody go to the doctor with absolutely zero symptoms and end up with a softball-sized tumor in their ovaries? Zero symptoms. Zero symptoms. They go for a checkup and boom, they're stage 4 and they're dead in 2 weeks. How many times does that happen? It happens when they ignore the symptoms and they think it's going to go away, go away, go away. But what I'm saying is, what if you know what causes all of this disease and then you can just sidestep around it like Barry Sanders? What if you can just juke and move and let it go right by you? That's what I'm saying. You don't have to be a victim. That's all I'm saying. GMOs. GMOs, they tell you it's for the population. What we'll do here, we'll just go straight through the HMOs and then we'll do the GMOs, because I want to read you all the notes that I compiled about the GMOs and the HMOs. The hidden dangers of HMOs, I'm just going to write this out. Disease management. Problem source. Lifestyle. But if you listen, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. You must buy our product or we fine you. So here, we're going to talk about this. HMOs. Anybody wonder where it all started? I'll tell you. The simple answer is, costs keep up with the care. How many of you have ever noticed that? In the 40s, the soldiers overseas, all the soldiers going overseas kind of created this competition for workers. So to lure employees, U.S. companies came up with the idea of let's just give them health care. Health insurance as kind of a more attractive benefit system. So it became kind of the basis of today's system where the healthy pay for the sick. How many of you know that's what insurance really is? You're paying your good money to take care of the people who don't know the stuff that you know. So you're staying healthy. You ever notice that? You get discounts on your car insurance for being a safe driver, but your neighbor can take his head and bash it into the tree every day, drinking beer and eating McDonald's, and no discount. You like that? No discount. Safe drivers get discounts on their premiums, but you can live like Evel Knievel and your health premiums just continue, right? 1950s, healthcare got more sophisticated with the onslaught of medicine, because then antibiotics boomed after World War II, right? Everything's antibiotic, antibiotic, antibiotic. You go to the doctor, your kid's got a sniffle, what's he get? Got a sore ear, what's your kid get? Even though that's usually viral, which antibiotics don't touch a virus, FYI. But if the parent doesn't walk out with a script, they feel gypped, so the pediatrician writes them a script for an antibiotic because they know it's not going to kill them. If you have a cough, what do you get?
Antibiotic.
You go in for surgery, you get a preventative. Right. Antibiotics cut your guts wide open, cause mitochondrial damage. You get an antibiotic, and for the next few days, you feel very tired, lethargic. There goes your mitochondria. There goes your energy, right? And then, ladies, if you take an antibiotic for a UTI, what do you have a day or two later?
Yeast infection.
Everybody knows this. I'm not making anything up. Everybody knows this. So the Medicare, or the medicine, the antibiotics were booming after World War II, so everybody's got to get antibiotics. Everybody's got to get the vaccines. Everybody. Treatment costs continue to rise. So if there's no employer-based health care, you either paid cash or you didn't go to the doctor at all. Oof, brilliant idea. You just didn't go to the doctor at all. I have people all day come in. I don't like to go to the doctor. I don't like doctors. I say, well, hallelujah, neither do I. I'm glad you're here. Funny, damn it. So you either paid cash or you didn't go at all. Well, a lot of people, great, that's what we need to do today. You either pay cash or you just don't go at all. Why do people think that a third-party company is going to care about their health care? In the business of being sick, I taught this about, well, and I think we'll have time to cover it today. I'm going to break down $1 for you and show you how much of it is going to healthcare, how much of it's going to your drugs, how much of it's going to other garbage. I'm going to break it all down for you. Pretty interesting stuff. So healthcare, why would you pay cash for a pizza and cash for a car and cash for clothing, but think that a third-party company should be responsible for paying for your own health care and ability to live on this planet and breathe oxygen? Is that messed up, or is that messed up? It's the only industry. What else would pay for you to do something? Is there any other industry? It's the only thing I can think of. There's car insurance, of course, which is kind of the same concept. But literally, this is your health. This is your blood. This is your DNA. This is your livelihood. This is your ability to work. And you are putting a third-party company in charge of that. Tell me what other industry does that on Earth? Who? Anybody? We're making a third-party company completely and totally responsible for our health care and our baby's health care from the moment they're born in a hospital to the vaccinations, to the trips to the ER, to the trips to the psychiatrist for the Adderall, to the trips to the family practice, to the trips to all the way up to Medicare, to the EKGs, the CAT scans, the MRIs, the blood labs, the endoscopies, the colonoscopies, all of that, you're giving the insurance company power over your very life. What other industry does it? Anybody? Funny. 1960s, increased costs meant more companies offered insurance, newer treatments, meds, and imaging came about. That's when Raymond Damadian was a creation scientist, a Christian, who came up with this thing called MRI. And then before you know it, there's contrasts that you have to pump into your veins and have to figure out, which contrasts are toxic to your body, right? I don't think he planned on the contrasts. But that's when newer treatments, all the meds, newer treatments like stents and open heart surgeries and all that stuff went through the roof in the 60s. Imaging came about, MRIs, CAT scans, imaging centers, x-rays, all that. Medicaid and x-rays were around long before that. But Medicaid and Medicare were implemented for elderly and the poor in the 1960s. And in the 1980s and 90s, third parties set up fee structures called a managed care. That's where the HMO came from. What was the first HMO? Anybody? You've heard of Edgar Kaiser Permanente, good friend of Richard Nixon, caught on tape saying that as the price increases, the care will decrease. Richard Nixon on tape. With Edward Kaiser putting together the first HMO, Richard Nixon. Wasn't he the first guy that got impeached? Wasn't that the guy? Okay, yeah, I forgot. Self-employed, unemployed, you either take no risk without coverage, you pay the full price, or you purchase insurance on the open market until the problem of the source is ignored. Well, we'll come back to this. Liberty is assaulted. So a couple of years ago, all of a sudden, for the first time in human history on planet Earth, there was a law that was passed that said you had to buy our product. How many of you think that's a good idea? A law being passed saying if you don't buy this product, we're going to tax you. First time, to my knowledge, unless somebody else knows, sorry, I didn't know I was FBI now still. Unless somebody else knows of another product, first time ever, you were fined for not buying. Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
So, huh?
I'm gonna get your board.
Okay. We'll fill in the GMO side here in a minute. But why is it so expensive? Everybody has to know why is it so expensive. Does anybody... The healthcare crisis that we have right now is only a crisis because nobody can afford it. Why are the prices so high? Good question. I have the answer. Prescription drugs. Fastest growing healthcare expense in the U.S. Companies say it's for increased research and development reasons because it costs a lot to bring the drug to market, and FDA clearance and all that stuff. Out of $1, 15 cents of every dollar goes to research and development and to the prescription drugs. Out of every dollar, 10 cents of it goes to defensive medicine. That means like malpractice insurance, enormous coverage, because patients request tests that they don't need, or they go and say, I need the purple pill. I watched that commercial, that's exactly the symptoms I have, I want the purple pill. So defensive medicine means more malpractice coverage that people have to have, because now doctors aren't doctoring, doctors are prescribing. Is wasted. That's why I don't do insurance. If I did do insurance, I'd have to pay 4 people to sit in the back room and argue with Blue Cross Blue Shield, Humana, Aetna, and Cigna about whether we get paid or whether we don't. Because they only make money when they don't pay the doctor, or they only make money when they up your premiums. Does that make sense? So that's why all of that administrative cost, out of $1, 35 cents goes, 35% of your health care goes for administrative costs of a doctor's office arguing with the insurance companies. That's efficient, isn't it? Administration, hospital services, paperwork. What's the rest of it go to? Right here. Problem source is completely ignored, and the rest of it goes to unhealthy lifestyles. How do I know? Walk into a convenience store. Walk into a college diag and see how many fast food joints are on the campus. Go to a school here in Cleveland. Go look at what they're feeding them for breakfast, lunch, and look at what the churches are feeding them for dinners. Guaranteed. I guarantee it. The prisoners in the penitentiary are eating better food than your kids at school. And you're wondering why the kids have allergies, eczema, learning behavior disorders, all kinds of disorders. They can't remember stuff. They're overweight. They have allergies, eczema, skin conditions. They have all of these conditions. They're diabetic at age 12. It's ridiculous. So most diseases are preventable. Like I just talked about. Most diseases are preventable. Medicine will tell you that. I didn't just make that up a minute ago where I said if you can sidestep it like Barry Sanders and avoid cancer, the best way to not die of cancer is to avoid having it. How do you avoid having it? Well, if you know that there are a couple of things mainly that cause cancer and you avoid those things, guess what? If you also know that cancer is a break in your immune system and you boost your immune system so it's up here so nothing can touch you, what do you think the chances are of you outrunning cancer? How about that? Is that empowering to know that you don't have to live under the fear of a diagnosis? Whereas everyone else you know is probably, well, I hope I don't get cancer. Better wear my sunscreen. Better cover up. Don't want to have no skin cancer, no melanoma. How empowering is it to say, wait a minute, we know what causes cancer. How about if we avoid it? How about if I just don't get it? That's a lot more empowering than just living under the thumb of never knowing. Wondering, how many blood tests am I away from the doctor finding something and calling me? How many mammograms am I away from wondering, they're going to call me on a Friday, leave a message, I'm going to have to wait Saturday and Sunday, call them back on a Monday, wondering what's going on, because they said, please call our office immediately. How many times I heard that from women, right? Wait that whole weekend and wonder if you've got breast cancer. Well, what if you know what causes breast cancer? There are definitive things out there. You think all these years of human history and nobody's figured out cancer? Nobody's figured out, I didn't say the cure. Notice that. What causes it? Because isn't the cause of cancer the cure? If you're waiting for a drug or if you're waiting for a vaccine or if you're waiting for them to come out with some new chemical, you're deceived. Because when they come out with a cure for cancer, it's going to be a drug. It's going to be a vaccine, I guarantee you. And what does every drug do? It's going to help you or kill you. They're telling you right now the chemo's helping you. Is that the truth? Everybody knows that ain't right. You think the cure is going to help you? Absolutely not. So what's the way to avoid cancer? That's the cure for cancer. The cause is the cure. Period. End of story. Drop the mic, walk off stage. Tell that to your oncologist. Have him call me. We'll have a sit down. We'll have a talk. Guaranteed. Okay? You must have physical activity. You must eat actual food, and you must sleep. That is the key to this whole lifestyle thing. You must eat actual food. Remember the bags, cans, box thing that I talked about? 20-something-year-old girl did a purification for the first time in her life, and it was the best food she'd ever eaten for 3 weeks in her life. She has brand new habits. So, I got a little story about my dad. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But I want to cover the GMOs thing. The liberty is assaulted. With HMOs, they assault your liberty. They say, we think you're so stupid that you're not even going to stand up. And you'll just hop on the open source, open enrollment, and you give us all your information, tell us your entire history. You'll go on 23andMe, put in your name, we'll have your DNA. They think you're that stupid, okay? You must buy our products, and then, or we'll fine you. So most people say, well, God, I don't want to get fined. That's like a traffic ticket. That'll make your premiums go up. So they just hop on and do it and pay this exorbitant amount of money when you should just get fined. Save you a lot. I'll save you a lot of money right now. Just take the fine. Save you a lot of money right now. So then costs and overtime. What is that costs over time with HMOs premiums? So if somebody's premiums $1,000 a month or $800, let's just say grand, just to keep it simple. $12K a year for your premiums. Does that sound like a deal? When you could take that money. Oh, and then on top of the premium, once you pay the premium, you still have to pay the deductible. See where I'm going with this? still have to pay the deductible, then you still have to pay a copay, then you still got to get the prescription costs, which are going to flush right down the toilet because you don't want to take the poisons because you know they're toxic. So you just shot yourself in both feet in trying to run a marathon, right? But what if you took all that money that I just mentioned and you put it into your actual healthcare with stuff that heals you, like nutrition, like chiropractic, like laser, like detox, like saunas, like things that actually get your body to sweat for the first time in 20 years since you've been living and working in an office. You're not playing high school volleyball anymore. You're not sweating, right? So what's happening to all that stuff that your body's trying to flush out? If your drainage channels are caked up and closed off, what are you going to do? You're gonna get toxic, right? Everybody knows good stuff in, bad stuff out. Whether it's a computer or whether it's a living, breathing organism, good stuff in, and the bad stuff has to go out. Period. I didn't make up that equation. So, the GMOs side of things, we're just going to run through this because I want to tell you a very personal and heavy-duty story. Yes, Facebook, we're going to finally tell this. I've been leading you on for weeks, and we're going to talk about it. I want to tell you about what happened with my dad. We'll do that at the very end. GMOs. And hit me with a time at some point. GMOs. So the same company, how many of you are familiar with the whole debate?
What?
With GMOs. How many of you are familiar with what's going on? So we got to the point in human understanding where we thought it would be a grand idea to take the brilliant handiwork of the Creator and improve upon it. Got the grand idea to screw stuff up. Here's what we'll do. We'll take DNA from bacteria, viruses, funguses, parasites, and even human tissue, and we will splice it and dice it into plants and or animals to change the characteristics so that you can have that seedless watermelon at the store and you don't have to get all bogged down and spitting out the seeds. And we'll change up the genetic structure of chickens so that when you go to Buffalo Wild Wings, you don't have to mess with the little wang dangs. You can have big, fat, genetically modified Frankenwings. Yes. Then we'll change up cattle and pigs and all this other stuff so that you sell the meat by the pound. So if you can stick them, tie them to a stake in the backyard and not let them run around all the time, thank you, not let them run around, they'll put on more weight. You'll take them to market, and it'll be bigger. Recombinant bovine growth hormone, that's what that's all about, which we'll talk about here in a second. And then if we do the plants, then everybody knows that the plants are dying because of all these scourges and bacteria and viruses and little parasitic and worms and bugs and stuff. So what we ought to do is we ought to take every living thing on planet Earth and we ought to coat it in a toxic chemical poison so that the bugs won't eat it. Does that sound like a good idea? Where's all of that poison going to go? Well, whatever doesn't hit the plant is going to hit the dirt. And then it's going to go where?
Stomach.
In your food, in your stomach, in your food, in your water supply, the water table, whatever. Then 20, 30 years later, you're going to have a catastrophe on your hands. And no one is going to be able to figure out why everybody is stupidly sick. Welcome to 2018 in the United States of America, where most of the food and the chemicals and the things that are completely in your fridges and pantries are not even allowed in other countries on the planet. Did you know that? It's absolutely out of control. Other countries don't allow shipments of our food into their ports sometimes. I mean, this is ridiculous. Who could make this up? So, the same company that says Roundup is safe and the GMOs are not harmful is the same company donating millions to the anti-labeling laws that happened a few years ago. They didn't want you to know what was in your food. Why would that be? When you sell a car to someone, you get it checked out by a mechanic. That'd be like looking at the ingredients, right? You'd want to know how, are the tires in good shape? What about the transmission? Blah, blah, blah. What's the oil change history been like? Whatever. Where'd you take it to get it work done? You'd want to read the label of the car that you buy. But they think you're that stupid where you don't want to read or know the label that's in your food. But then you're going to be wondering, why do I have diabetes? Then you're going to be wondering, why am I on 12 meds? Right? It's crazy. Monsanto. You need to know this name. How many of you have never heard the word Monsanto in all of your life? Everybody? I think that's a first. Okay. Monsanto Chemical Works, quick little history. St. Louis, Illinois, founded 1901. John Francis Queenie was a 30-year pharmaceutical veteran. Married to Olga Mendez Monsanto, member of the Knights of Malta, if that means anything to any of y'all. First product was artificial sweetener sold to Coca-Cola. 1920s, or not first product, sorry. big product was artificial sweetener sold to Coca-Cola. 1920s, I'll just give you a little rundown on Monsanto. They got into making aspirin. They introduced PCBs into the market, into the environment. That's an oil that will not burn. That's PCBs that appears in a lot of lubricants and greases, detergents, things like that. 1940s, they researched uranium for the Manhattan Project. 1950s, they aligned with Disney for Tomorrowland. Have you all been to Disney at the Epcot Center with the rides, the future of tomorrow, or tomorrow, the future, what's the name of the ride? It's in the ball, it's in the golf ball, you ride around. It's like Tomorrowland. I think Tomorrowland was the old name of it. But nobody knows what I'm talking about? What's the name of the Tomorrowland?
I forgot the name of it. It's been
Yeah.
years.
Spaceship Earth.
Spaceship Earth.
The Carousel Progress, I think is the one you're thinking.
Okay.
The mentioning.
I think Spaceship Earth
Yeah.
sounds right. Yeah. Where you sit in the car and they take you around to like the history of civilization and they show you caveman and, you know, hunching over a fire, and then the next thing is like, here's a printing press with Gutenberg rattling off pages of the Bible, and then, you know, here's, you know, Steve Jobs in his office, you know, building a computer in the garage, and then here's, you know, the fake moon landing, or the, you know, the people going up on the Apollo or whatever. So they walk you through all of history, and then at the very end of the whole thing, they have a little cutout like jibber jabber. Remember what jibber jabber was? They have the people sit next to you on the ride, your head on little cartoon animated figures going through life, and it says, where would you like to live? You know, mountains, ocean, beach, whatever, in the future. And then it asks, what would your ideal, you know, dream job be? You know, and so within each one of these, it kind of makes a future for you, and it says, in the future, we'll be able to do this and do this and do this, and we'll be able to plan and do these surgeries on the fly on a ski slope in Colorado at your job as a ski patrol, you know, and it's here's the little thing that here's your ski pack, and you pull it out, and it builds this thing by the end of the ride. It builds this whole cartoon for you personally, and it's you waking up in your little George Jetson, you know, thing with the fridge that comes up next to you and spits out food in your mouth, the little pill, right? All the food, you won't have to chew it, right? This is the future. This is the future, I'm not kidding, this is Disney. And then you go to your job, you know, and you're skiing. I don't know why people would ski in the future if you've got spaceships, right? But anyway, you whip out your little thing with the Red Cross on it, and out pops this little package with Pfizer on it, the emblem for Pfizer, right? And then you pull it out, and it's a little fake robotic arm for someone, a little splint. And then the next thing you go to, you know, your next activity in life. The whole point, what I'm trying to make is, they aligned with Disney for Tomorrowland back in the 50s, and to this day, the pharmaceutical ads are within the little cartoon that the computer makes for you about your future life. Blew my mind. It actually blew my mind so hard, I got back on the ride, took the whole darn thing so that I could punch in the same thing and video the whole, I've got it. So I could video the whole, when we have a TV up here soon, shortly, and we figure out all the electronics of it, I'm gonna show all of these things that I've compiled. So I took a video of the whole darn thing because it was so stinking unbelievable. I could not believe it. So, make a long story short, it goes way back to Disney. 1960s, Dow and Monsanto developed a little thing that was called Agent Orange. Do any of you know what that was?
Yeah. They used it in Vietnam.
Yeah.
For gassing too.
Yeah. So this is remember, this is the same company that's making your GMOs, making your Roundup. This is the same company. Okay. Remember, I'll go back. I got off track on the Disney thing because it blew my mind. But in the 20s, they did aspirin, PCBs. In the 40s, they researched uranium. In the 50s, they lined up with Disney. In the 60s, they developed Agent Orange. In the 70s, they partnered with J.D. Searle, which was the company that brought artificial sweeteners to Coke in that market. In the 80s, well, that's Rumsfeld and Reagan, we won't get into that. And then in 94, Monsanto develops recombinant bovine growth hormone from GMO E. coli. That's genetically modified E. coli, which is a bacteria. It's grown in every laboratory, every college, every microbiology laboratory. E. coli is what you hear about on TV as being deadly and all. There are some pathogenic strains and some that aren't. But they developed the recombinant bovine growth hormone from genetically modified E. coli. So they took bacteria and put it into the cattle. Into the cattle, not just the cattle, into the DNA of the cattle. The DNA of bacteria now mixing with the DNA of the critters that you're eating and of the bovine nipple secretions of the critters that you're eating. Colony collapse disorder, I mean, a lot of people know GMOs, pesticides. Why are the bees dying? Why are the birds falling out of the sky? If you want to know why the birds are falling out of the sky, we've got a little class for you right here on July 16th. Or July 16th, air, Straight Truth on Clouds. We'll talk more about that. But just to get finished up with GMOs here, fish dying off, animals dying off, healthcare, massively high costs, but high availability of all of the GMOs in the USA. Toxic pesticides masquerading as food are banned in the European Union, but not in the USA. And it's no accident that the US is the sickest country on earth. So why do I say all this? Because here, right here, they're going to tell you that population is the big thing. Overcrowding, carbon footprint, global warming, it's all about this. It's all about this. It's all about the population. It's all about let's limit the population. It's all about the world is overcrowded, blah, blah, blah. We need GMOs to feed the hungry. If GMOs were taken off the market tomorrow, we would still fail to feed the starving people in the world with the same inefficiency that we currently operate under, I promise you. GMOs are not feeding the world. Okay? Population. Hidden dangers, cancer, disease. Oh yeah, Pandora's box. Cancer, disease. Oh, wait. Cancer, heart disease, stroke, hypertension. If you ingest a toxic chemical into your body, will that push your blood pressure up or push your blood pressure down?
No.
Everybody knows that. Boom. You know why you're on 5 anti-hypertension drugs? You're eating GMOs and you're eating crap food. It's very simple. Anybody going to tell you that? Probably not. Soil and chemicals, the problem source is ignored. Remember when I talked about the plants that had all these blights? All these viruses, fungus, bacteria. The plants are just getting hammered. Well, we've got to have the GMO stuff, the Roundup. We've got to be able to spray the Roundup and the poison so it kills everything but the plant. Because the plants can't take care of themselves. That's like saying that little newborn baby can't take care of itself. It doesn't have a good enough immune system. We're going to have to jack it full of 15 others and toxic chemicals. Think about it. The plants are just like humans. The plants only have the blight. How long have plants been around? A long time, right? So the plants are only having a hard time with the viruses and the funguses and the parasites and all the stuff, all the bugs and the worms, because they didn't get proper nutrition from what? The soil.
Right.
Because we didn't farm it the way that we were told that we were supposed to farm it. So now the soil's screwed up. So now the plants, if they get their immune system out of the soil, and the soil doesn't have what it has to have in order for the plants to have an immune system, is the plant going to have an immune system? No, it's going to be sick. So now you're going to have to spray it. Guess what? That's why God said, hey, every 7 years, let's let the fields, let them go. I'll provide more for you in year 6, but you'll still have it left over in year 9. Right? No, we won't do that. You made everything, but we don't want to do that. That's why it's called divine design. Get that? I hope you got that. Hope you got that before you walked in here. This is a natural biblical healthcare type establishment, so I hope everybody takes that because it ain't going to change. It's only going to get better. So when we understand that the soil and the chemicals are actually the problem source is ignored. I grew up on a farm. My brother still runs everything, plants every seed that goes in the ground is genetically modified. I figured that out when I was about 17 or 18. I thought, man, we genetically modified all the seeds? No idea. Why do we do that? So we can poison them. Huh? He told me, and it just didn't make any sense. So we can poison them, but who eats that? Well, the cattle eat. We don't eat this. We grow all the corn for the cattle to eat. The most inefficient way to do anything. It's like mowing your yard every week and wondering why you don't have a garden. It's like the most inefficient thing you could possibly do. Let's raise a bunch of food for the cattle to eat, but we have to spray it in order for it to grow, but it would be a heck of a lot cheaper and easier if we just raised enough food for the people to eat and let the cattle eat what they were designed to eat, which was grass, instead of the corn and the wheat, which they weren't supposed to be designed to eat. How messed up is that? On a scale of 1 to uh-oh, that's pretty messed up, isn't it? So, liberty is assaulted.
Makes better meat with a lot of corn.
No label, you have no choice. If they keep you from understanding this, then you'll just eat anything, right? And then the costs, research and development, R&D. environment, sickness. So that eventually the environment is so screwed up and people are so sick that you're going to be running to the initial source of who created it, looking for a magic drug, a magic pill, a magic thrill, a magic lotion, a magic potion. You're going to be looking for a cure for cancer. When really, the same company is making it and causing it. And you're not seeing it the whole time. That is the double whammy of just what I'm going to explain to you right here. Personal story, and then we'll get out of here. Personal story. My dad, a little while ago, had surgery. He's always been very, very, very super healthy, but I've been doing what I'm doing here very simply for about 9 years now. And the minute I got into it and I figured out and I realized all this stuff, I said, Mom, Dad, my mom, by the way, retired from Kellogg's. Mom, I love you if you're out there watching. I'm not throwing you under the bus. I got permission to share all this, by the way. Love my mom. She retired from Kellogg's, so I grew up eating the crappiest food possible. So, I mean, when your kids are doing bad, I know why they have allergies. I know exactly why they have allergies, because I grew up on a farm and I had allergies and it sucked and it was horrible. And I couldn't figure out, nobody could tell me why I had allergies. But I was drinking cow's milk with recombinant bovine growth hormone and slathering up a bunch of toasted glycated cereal covered with sugar called Frosted Flakes, Lucky Charms, and Honey Smacks for my whole entire young adulthood. So I know a little bit about this, okay? So I was very, very sick. Skin stuff, allergies, horrible. Bee stings would just, I'd blow up. So we didn't know what we didn't know. My dad was always very healthy, always worked like a horse, always very, very, very active. And then, people get older in their ways, they retire, and all he wants to do is just kind of sit around the house and read the newspaper and go get the mail and mow the yard and and eat bread and milk, and crappy food. And then they go to Taco Bell for lunch, they go to McDonald's for dinner, they go to Burger King for, it just goes on. And then here comes a Subway to town and it's, life is totally different, So they ate a lot of fast food because my mom didn't want to cook anymore and everything, and I'm sure that this is ringing bells with all of you guys. So as they get older, their health starts to kind of deteriorate. And then my mom, before we know it, is on 8 or 10 or 12 meds. She's diabetic, blah, blah, blah. I start doing what I'm doing here. Mom, you got to change this stuff. Listen, it's all about your diet. It really, really, really is. And by the way, I didn't learn any of this in chiropractic school, by the way, because chiropractic school is the same as med school. They hardly teach you any of this stuff. You have to figure it out on your own. Insurance won't pay for it, though, and that's why no other chiropractors, no other doctors want to do it, because it takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and insurance won't pay for it. So you got to know that you know your stuff, or you'll never make it back. But this is the only way, effective way. This is like it. This is the only way that you can effectively change people's lives. That's it. Serious. Except in an ER, in an emergency room. That's a whole different story. Those guys are geniuses. Hats off to all of them. So anyway, so my dad's and mom's health start to deteriorate as time goes by, and then my dad gets a stent. There's a blockage in the artery, and he's tired, and he's tired all the time. So they put a stent in, and then it's 2 stents, and then they put a stent on the stent, and then later on, just a couple of years ago, he wasn't feeling too hot, and last summer, had a couple of minor strokes, little TIAs, transient ischemic attacks, starts talking kind of funny, starts babbling, take him to the hospital, run 15,000 tests, and come back with, well, it was a tiny stroke. Oh, perfect. So what happened on Labor Day, I was driving home, he had a little stroke, and we ended up in the hospital, and he, perfect, we'll be done just on time. So he ended up with a little stroke in October, and so they start looking into everything. They start looking at his heart and start realizing that he had a murmur. He's going to need a valve. He's going to need another stent. He's going to need a pacemaker. All this stuff starts spiraling downhill. And I'm saying to my mom, let's not put him on the drugs, because if his body's already taxed, how much of this makes sense with all of you? If the heart is having a problem, a stress test might not be a good idea. Amen?
Right.
It's pretty simple. Right?
Right.
Does that hit you? Who thinks of this stuff? Really, who thinks of that, right? So, my dad, he's already having a problem, so what are we going to do? Well, we're going to give him a bunch of drugs, and we're going to give him a bunch of, procedures. We're going to stress him out. We're going to get him there at 5 o'clock in the morning for the EKGs, right? When anybody would be out of their mind. So it's just this big, nonstop ball of stress that all of a sudden hits my whole family. And we're like, here goes. And I see the writing on the wall, and I'm going, we've kept them off the drugs for a few years, and now they're going to go to the doctors, and the doctor's going to scare them into oblivion, and they're going to be on 12 meds by the end of the week. I guarantee. I'm just thinking it. I'm not even saying it. I'm just thinking, oh, here goes. Here's the beginning of the end. You know. But I know one thing, that every person that's here, I treat just like my dad, my mom, my sister, my brother, because find an oncologist. I challenge you. Find an oncologist that's going to put their kids on the chemo. Find a surgeon who's going to rip his mom's stomach open and do a gastric bypass or a stomach sleeve, a gastric sleeve. Find a dermatologist that's going to give their wife the same poison that they're giving to somebody else. Why is that? They know. I told you why I have all the medical people here. They know what's going on. Why do you think they're coming here? That should tell us all something. So in the meantime, my dad, I'm doing everything here with everybody in this practice that I would do for my mother, my father, and my sister, and my brother, my immediate family. Hold the question for a minute, because I'm on track here. So, make a long story short, my dad's surgery is scheduled, and then I look at it like, okay, this is going to be a learning experience. I'm going to learn something from this. Surgery scheduled, we're all freaking out. What happens if something happens? Well, he's older. They're going to put him on anesthetic, painkiller. They're going to take him to the edge of eternity and bring him back. I mean, you guys, there's no such thing as a routine procedure. You understand that, right? There is no such thing as a routine procedure. Okay? A procedure where they open your veins or your arteries and they put you under. When you sign that paperwork that says you're not going to sue them if you die, that I've had to sign in emergency situations, that's the real deal, man. Rubber hits the road. It gets real. It gets real quick. So all of a sudden, he's out of the hospital. I fly up to Michigan. I go, where I'm from, and I go see, and I'm at the hospital I used to work at, by the way. Funny, strange, right? So I walk in. Here's my dad. He looks good. They just put a $32,500 wholesale valve in his heart that is bovine pericardium stitched together, micro hand stitched by a row of dudes in a fancy place out in like Cupertino, California, where they're sewing under microscopes. I talked to the nurse practitioner, told me all about it. It's mad, crazy. And it's a metal frame with a bovine pericardium, so it'll just never wear out. This is bovine. It's a cow. The pericardium is the sac that surrounds the heart of a beef cow, of a big giant cow. So they make this stent and somehow, or this valve, and they somehow track it up through the femoral artery. I mean, it's just genius stuff that they do. Evil, but genius. So it goes up, and they stick this valve in, and then they do a stent. They did the pacemaker like in February. They did the stent in March. I went up for the surgery in, I think it was April. So anyway, I walk in, and he looks really good. Well, we're there for a couple hours. He eats the food. Or wait, hold on. Let me back up. Within this one weekend, just about a month and a half ago, they almost killed my dad about 3 times. And I'm going to tell you how it happened. And this is how easy it can go. We're sitting there, mom, dad, sister. In walks the nurse, and no disrespect to nurses. I told you, I have a dozen of them in this practice. No disrespect at all. The nurse pushes in this cart and says, "Time for your antibiotic therapy." I thought he was kidding. Antibiotic therapy? I kind of chuckled, and I said, "Is that what this is called?" He said, "Oh yeah, this is the 4th dose." "Oh, well, that might explain why he hasn't had a bowel movement for like 2 days. That might explain something." "Oh, what do you mean by that?" "Well, antibiotics, anti, it's right in the name." "Mom, I want you to hear this. Mom, it's anti is against, biotic is life. So if we're giving someone something that's against life, how logical is this? And we're trying to get him to, pee and go to the bathroom and flush out the anesthetics that's in his body. Took him to the edge, brought him back. I mean, he's under a lot of chemicals right now. Plus, they've got him on 3 blood thinners, a blood pressure med, and a statin drug, all at once. Plus, he's taken, well, that was before. They stopped him on a bunch of meds, put him on 5 more. So he's under anesthetic, painkiller, muscle relax, whatever else was in the anesthetic cocktail. Now he's on 5 meds, and he's trying to recover from surgery. Antibiotic therapy, the nurse comes in and says, "Time for your antibiotic therapy," and I'd said, "No, I don't think we're going to do that." "Well, why not? Why would you not want to do that?" I said, "Well, because antibiotic, he doesn't need it, and he's trying to build his body back from being poisoned with the anesthetic and everything. He had just had a massive surgery. Why does he need an antibiotic? Well, I'll just ask you a question, Mr. Nurse. Does he have an infection? Well, it's preventative. I understand that. But is there an infection? Is there a sign of infection? We're doing it just to cover the bases in the fearful hope that he may have an infection at some point. Does the risk not outweigh the benefit? Seriously. And he just kind of stopped, and I said, we're not doing this. Declined. You can be gone now. So that happened. I sat down with my mom. I said, Mom, I brought a little book. It's by an interesting dude named Timothy Markham. He's a cardiologist out of Chattanooga. Anybody know this guy? I'm reading his books. He has a book. He's a cardiologist. He's an interventional cardiologist. He's out of Chattanooga at the Heart Center.
James Mark.
Huh?
James Mark.
Oh, James. I said Timothy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, James Markham.
He
Yeah.
also works in Cleveland.
Okay. Yeah, he's a cardiologist. Well, I bought his books. Guess what? He has a book called Medicines That Kill. And the whole thing goes on about medicines, how when he was in medical school, he was never really told anything about the medicines. This is an interventional cardiologist. This is a guy who cuts people's hearts open. And he's saying, the name of his book is Medicines That Kill. I read the first 2 chapters to my entire family. I said, look, I've been doing this for years. You guys may or may not understand exactly what's going on with the practice and the testimonials and everything, but I just want to read you. If you're not going to listen to me, fine, that's no problem. I don't give a rip. Listen to the cardiologist that wrote the book called Medicines That Kill. Just listen to it. And I just read through and said, here's all the facts and figures on medicines are the leading cause of death. This is a cardiologist, an MD. An MD saying it. And who published all the research that said the medicines were killing people back in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s? MDs and PhDs. It wasn't chiropractors. We have no axe to grind because I'm reading their research. I'm reading their books. I'm reading their stuff. Not some chiropractic quack, swinging crystals. I'm reading their stuff so I can understand where they're coming from. So I read those 2 chapters to my mom and my sister and said, here's what we need to know. As far as the power of attorney and the living will and all this stuff, yeah, that's good and dandy. But we need to understand they're going to come at us full force with every drug on the planet. And they're going to make you fearful, and they're going to make you think if you don't put him on that drug that you're killing him. Just like if you don't inject that baby, you're a baby killer. Understand. Something clicked. Something really did click. And so he ate the food. So this is the second time they tried to kill him. Because hospital food, that's a laugh right there. Somebody laugh at that? Thank you. So the second time they tried to kill him, the hospital food, seriously, the prisoners are eating better than your loved ones at the hospital. I'm not kidding. This is the hospital I used to work at in Michigan. So right after the food, and I said that jokingly, but I mean it, because right after the food, he puts his fork down and he starts babbling. So what are you instantly thinking? What are you instantly thinking? Exactly, stroke. My mom starts freaking out. I almost started freaking out, but I said, just stop. We go drag one person in here, and it's going to go right down the crapper. Where they're going to take us down the rabbit hole with this. Come here, let's pray. Pray to him, because I just knew. I know what's up. I know that God's bigger. Our God is not the dude that can write a prescription outside the hall. Our God is the dude who knit him together in his mother's womb and knows exactly where he is, and he's in this room right now.
Amen.
Get on a bandwagon, or get behind me. I don't care. That's what we do with patients. Every patient that walks in here, what's one of the first things we do with them?
Pray.
Exactly. Thank you. So, prayed to my dad, my mom, and then gave it a few minutes. I noted the time. Face, arm, speech, time, fast. Notice the stroke, fast. Right. You all know that acronym, right? So I looked at the time, knew it. Okay, 7:09, whatever. Gave him a few minutes and said, okay, let's go get somebody. We go get somebody. The nurse, the PA rushes in with about 3 nurses pushing 3 big giant carts. This is where it all starts getting crazy. They asked, what's his name? Is he on any meds? Is he allergic to anything? You see where I'm going with this? What's his name again? Has he had any history of stroke or cerebrovascular accidents? Do you think a hysterical mom, wife of 53 years, in that state of mind is going to be able to answer any of those questions when all of that info is written on the whiteboard right behind them?
Yep.
Right then, I said, all of you people, right then, all of these people lost all of my trust. Because not only could they not pronounce his name, they didn't know after we told them 3 times, They didn't know how to pronounce his name. They didn't know the meds he was on, his allergies, or the history of his cerebrovascular or cardiac events. This is the hospital where he got the stent, the pacemaker, and the valve just days ago. A day ago. Previously, the day before that. Do you understand the gravity of that? And I instantly said, my trust is no longer in you people. I am moving on. So they start pricking his finger. What's a finger poke going to tell you? Blood sugar, right? They start taking his blood pressure. Another person comes in and starts, doing this, looking neurologically at all the signs, and I know what they're doing. PA comes in and, what's his name? Again, the third time. I'm livid. My temperature is boiling. I look like Bugs Bunny on a cauldron. My ears are flopping. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? This is the top heart hospital in the state of Michigan. This is unbelievable. So the PA says, well, we're going to run a CAT scan, prep him for a contrast. Prep him for a what? No, you're not. A contrast. No, my friend. He says, well, who are you? So, your worst nightmare, brother. That's who I am. Because you are not doing a contrast on him right now. Do you understand me? Well, why is that? Well, you tell me a contrast agent that's not toxic to the kidneys. Oh, and he's peed about a half a liter all day. So do you think that's a good idea or do you think that's a bad idea? Then he's, horrible idea. So why are we going to do a contrast in the first place? Do you want to see a clot or do you want to see a bleed? He's like, well, it's probably a clot. Oh, really? Well, isn't he already on 3 blood thinners? So aren't the chances highly, highly favorable to the idea that he's bleeding in his brain right now? Because you've already got him on Eliquis, aspirin, and some other no-name pagan, drug named after some pagan god? So don't you think the chances are that and there's 7 nurses and personal care assistants, PCAs standing behind him, and the whole room just goes silent, like, who is this dude? And how's he talking to this guy? I just felt the whole room. It was like those moments where God is just like speaking through you and you're not even thinking. You know those moments? Mm-hmm. And I'm just like totally comfortable, totally present time awareness, right up here at tone boom. And I am just saying, is this a good idea? Or is this a bad idea? What's your risk versus benefit to what you're going to do to my dad? How about this? Since you didn't know his name, you didn't know his drugs, you didn't know his allergies, and you didn't know anything about the procedures that has happened in this hospital in the last 2 days, how about I take over from here, and we just walk him down to the imaging center, and I'll decide on the contrast or no contrast on the way. How's that sound? So we save time, so we don't have 7 people standing around here with 3 carts wasting a bunch of time in an emergency situation. Good idea or good idea? And we just start walking. We wheel him down. What's the name of the contrast agent? Who knows the contrast agent? Who knows the contrast agent? Omnipeg? OMNIPAQUE. Renal toxicity. Nope, just what I thought. We're not doing that. Take a picture, get him out. Yeah, I'm running the show now because you've officially lost my trust. We get him back up to the room. He's doing better, but guess what I start doing? I start lasering his brain with my laser that I took with me on the plane, and we start feeding him standard process supplements, the same that we've been doing, everything that he'd been doing, right? So within a few hours, he starts coming around, he starts remembering stuff, he starts having bowel movements, because remember, I had just gotten there like 3 or 4 hours before that. So then they do the whole, neurologist coming in, cardiologist coming in thing, checking, doing retests and all this stuff. And so we avoided the antibiotic therapy, we avoided the hospital food for the most part, because then I started going down the street to Panera and getting everything for breakfast, lunch, dinner for the next day and a half. And then we'd avoided the contrast. Any one of those things could have killed him, you know that, right? Any one of them could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. They went into the hospital, routine procedure, something happened, they reacted to something, a medication, there was an accident on the table, you don't know, you never know. How do I know? Happened to my grandparents. We still don't know what happened. Still don't know what happened. Hundreds of years of history right there. Have no idea what happened to those people. They went into the hospital, no idea. Did they react to the anesthetic? No idea. Did the antibiotic rip their guts open just enough where they bled? Just enough where they bled? Was there an interaction with the 12-drug cocktail that they were on, interspersed with the antiseptic painkiller cocktail that they were on for the surgery or the procedure? Nobody knows. What is sorcery and quackery? That or me telling you that God knit you from the dust of the earth and we're going to heal you with the dust of the earth made of plants and animals in whole food supplement form? What's quackery? What is sorcery? Yeah, you hear that? Yeah, hear the sound leave the room right there. So then strange thing, later on, after I'd had a little go around with a nurse that wanted to debate with me about how supplements kill people, that was interesting. I'm wearing my Divine Design Natural Health, no drug, no surgery, no kidding shirt with my scrubs in the hospital, so everybody thinks I work there. Hilarious. Didn't plan that. Then, here comes the heart surgeon, and he comes in the room, and he sits down, and he says, so, what is it you do exactly? Because he'd already heard, obviously. And this is the baddest heart surgeon in this town in Michigan. Everybody knows who this guy is. He practically runs the Heart Institute. I didn't know who he was. He just came in, middle-aged Indian fella, looked like a nice guy. But he just came in and sat down, and I could tell by his name tag that this was the doctor that I'd heard about, the main guy, the heart god, Indian guy. And he said, what is it exactly that you do? And I said, without even stuttering, I just said, we do all natural biblical health, no drugs, no surgery, no kidding. We do whole food nutrition, we do cold laser. He stops me right there and says, cold laser? I said, yeah. He said, what do you know about photobiomodulation? I said, plenty. Photobiomodulation is cold laser. That's exactly what we use. I have mine with me. You do? This is the heart surgeon. You do? Yeah, it's right here. Reach over, grab it. He looks at it. Cold laser. I said, yeah, I use it every day. Tell me everything you know. And it was from that point right there, the main leading heart surgeon, God turned that whole situation around where it could have been David against Goliath, and all of a sudden it's David and Jonathan, So he's saying, I want to do prehabilitation with patients, but CMS, what is CMS?
Insurance.
Huh?
Insurance.
Yeah, Center for Medicare Services, right? CMS won't pay for prehabilitation. They only want to pay for 12 weeks and 16 weeks of rehab at a nursing home. There's no such thing as planning ahead of time. What did we do for you when you broke your ankle?
Laser and supplements.
Correct. And did it heal up faster or slower?
Faster.
Right. So what if somebody was going in for surgery and we did a prehabilitation 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to prep their body for the muscle and the skin and the bones getting torn apart, drilled and pinned and screwed? What if we did some prehabilitation ahead of time for that open heart surgery? What if we did some prehabilitation for that knee replacement, hip replacement? What if we prepared your body and the joints and the tissues and the marrow to accept and to heal around that surgery? Then, what if afterwards we did some rehabilitation afterwards? All we did with you was nutrition and laser. That's all we did. And outcomes, out of control. Cool, thank you. Outcomes, out of control. The doctor said, the heart surgeon says, because I told him, he said, now what is it, what's the rest of what you do? I said, man, it's all natural biblical health. It's all, I don't know where you're from India, right? Yeah, okay, well, biblical, you know what that is, right? He's like, oh yeah. I said, okay. Now we're on the same page. So I do chiropractic. I'm a trained chiropractic physician. That's what I do, but the majority of what it is nutrition, because you don't have to adjust people 4 times a week when their nutrition's right, because their ligaments are replacing themselves properly. Does that make sense? I don't run insurance. I'm not doing car accidents. I'm not chasing ambulances, any of that. This is hardcore. Cold laser, detox. Good stuff in, bad stuff out. Nutrition and detox. And then chiropractic hits the big structures, and laser hits the microscopic, hits the DNA. It's like, that's genius. I said, yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. But mainly what I do is I clean up a lot of, no offense, your messes. I clean up the medical wreckage that is created by people not knowing that we exist, because we've been in the shadow of the medical community and the pharmaceutical mafia. He said, the mafia. He said, I'm not from this country. American doctors know nothing about how this country is run. I said, I know. You're the only ones. Indian doctors, when I worked at the hospital, Indian doctors, Chinese doctors, they're not born in the pharmaceutical system. You understand, America is run by it. The government, the pharmaceutical companies own and run the medical schools. If no one's ever told you that, wake up.
Right.
They do. They own it. Look in the history books. Look at the books that are written. The university I went to, the books, the physiology books were published by the drug companies in the nursing program and the medical program. Some of the books are published by Pfizer. Okay? Think about it. So, make a long story short, he was very receptive, and he said, tell me everything you know. I said, man, I went to a seminar last weekend in Greenville, South Carolina with the baddest laser guy on planet Earth. I've been to 4 or 5 of his seminars. Here's my book. I was reading it. I was running out of my house on the way to catch this plane, and it was the last thing I grabbed. I don't even know why I grabbed it, because I thought, I'll never have time to read this in the hospital. But it was God. And I grabbed it, and he said, hold on, wait 1 minute. And he goes and he calls his intern. He said, we're writing a paper on photobiomodulation. We're writing a paper on cold laser. He said, can I call my intern in? I said, yeah, man, go for it. I'll be right here by my dad. Call me, get back to me. So here we are, sitting down in the middle of this big giant glass room, all the nurses and PAs that I just done battle with for the whole weekend, walking past, and here I am in my scrubs with my no drugs, no surgery, no kidding shirt, my feet up on the table, and the leading heart surgeon in this city in Michigan and his intern are taking notes. And I'm saying, I'll send you the whole thing. I'll send you the whole thing. You don't need to write the whole thing down. I'll send you the whole thing. Yeah, I'm just flattered and enamored with the fact that you guys are into this. Prehabilitation, first time I've ever heard that word. He said, and the other thing, very gracious, awesome people. One was a student at the university I graduated with 3 degrees from, and he was the main heart guy at the institute there. He ran the whole entire place. Baddest heart surgeon, the only guy that would do the surgery on my dad. It's the only guy who said he'd do it. So I said, first of all, I have to extend awesome praise to you, and thanks, and gratitude, and appreciation, because of my dad. But secondly, it was chaos, and it was the biggest cluster I've ever seen, because I told him about the antibiotic therapy and all the other stuff. He was very gracious and very cool, and he said, you know, and he just had this look in his eyes, and I'll never forget it, and he said, by the time I put a stent in someone's heart, it's 10 years too late. And I'll never forget that. I wrote it all down. I took memoirs of this weekend. I got on the plane and was just like, wow, what just happened? It was a whirlwind. So somehow we were able to get my dad out of the hospital at the very minute that I had to go and drive to get on this plane. So all of that is being said. I'm telling you that for a couple of reasons. Because I'm telling you what other people that you love are headed for if you don't do something with the information that was just spit into your ears. I am not going to stop. So if they don't hear it, it's because there was a breakdown in communication from here to you. I am not going to stop. We are here. We are committed. We, you, me, every patient who is here knows the power and the authority with which we speak and which we operate. Everybody here knows. The testimonials. Ask Google, ask Facebook, go read them. So if there's a breakdown, if you love someone in this town and they are not understanding that you have access to a place like this that most people would have to drive 4 or 5 hours to go to a big city to find. I hadn't even thought of that. I had a patient last week. She said, Brett, the value of what you have here is ridiculous. And I think somebody had just complained that things were too expensive, you know, like an hour before. And I overheard it, and I don't even get pulled down that level. But I'd heard it, and somebody was complaining, oh, the supplements are too expensive, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just thinking, God, this right here is too expensive. And you're paying those. So when you get rid of those, let me know, you know. But she had said something like, you have no idea the value of what you have here. I said, yeah, I value this. She says, no, patience. To be able to have access to something like this with saunas and detox and chiropractic and all the stuff, and the stuff we're getting ready to plan for the future, that's why I'm telling you. That's why I'm telling you. You're going to hear about this place. I promise you. You're going to see a sign. It's going to look like Prince partying like it's 1999. There's going to be a sign out here. There's going to be airport lights. There's going to be dancers in the parking lot. There's going to be fire spinners. It's going to be nuts. You're going to hear this place. So, and Sonia's going to be in the back, just doing exactly that. So the stuff that we're planning for the future is huge. So she said, and it just really blessed me, and I thought, wow, I didn't even think of it like that. She said most people would have to drive 4 or 5 hours to go to a big city. You know, people drive all the time to go up to Rochester, go to Mayo. People go all the time over to Johns Hopkins. People fly to take their kid for some surgery that some specialist that they've never heard of. This is the only specialist on the whole entire world that's ever seen this disease before, and there's 0.001% chance. They drive and they fly. They quit their jobs. They move to different states to be near their doctor who only poisons and kills them slowly with pills. How nuts is that? And here I am going, well, some people want it, some people don't. She says, no, you just, like the value is through the roof. People don't get it. You would have to go to Atlanta. You would have to go to Knoxville, Nashville. You'd have to go to Miami to find something like this. And I said, I'm going to have to repeat that at my next class. Is that okay? Go for it. So, all that being said, I wanted to tell you the value of that, but also the value of understanding that that's what happened to my own dad. And knowing what I know, thankfully, now he gets the power of nutrition. He was on Prilosec for 35 years because he wouldn't stop eating wheat. I kept telling him, it was wheat, it was the bread, it was the milk, it was the stuff. He would not stop eating. He loved his honeycomb in the morning and he loved his cow's milk. That was it. He said, as long as I take a Prilosec, I'm okay, I don't feel anything. No, Dad, as long as you take a Prilosec, you're not digesting your food, you're gonna end up with problems later on. It's shutting down your guts. You understand the stupidity of that? But he wanted his honeycomb and milk more than he wanted his health. See? And you can't force that. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make him think. You cannot make him think. You can't, even God himself will not overpower your free will. If someone wants to suffer, that is their right, and I will allow them to do so. So if they don't want to be here, that's fine. So here's what we're going to do. We'll answer a few questions here in a minute. We've got a Facebook question. But I wanted to sign off and just tell y'all, chiropractic, big giant structures. We adjust shoulders, elbows, wrists, hands, hips, knees, ankles, toes, skull bones, necks, backs, hips, the whole 9 yards. Big structures. Laser, that stimulates your DNA. Cold laser. It's not hot, it's not cauterizing, heating, cutting, torching. It's a laser that regrows your tissues. You're going to see these lasers in a few years regrowing organs in people's bodies in real time. I'm serious. You're going to see this in the next few years. Nutrition gets the good stuff in. Detox gets the bad stuff out. Just if we just did the nutrition with you alone, you'd start to get better. Just because your body can only reproduce from what you put in it. Your body can only replicate the tissues. Somebody has a bone-on-bone knee thing or a ligament that won't heal, guess what? I know immediately. They're not eating something. They need something. Their body is missing something because that ligament from 1972 should have healed 25, 30, 40 years ago. Does that make sense? If you get a cut on your skin that doesn't heal, guess what? We automatically know something is blocking your body or messing up your body's ability to heal. And you're probably missing a nutrient of some sort. Does that make sense or does that make sense? Even if we just did the nutrition, you'd start to get better. But when we combine all 4 legs of that table, it is a very sturdy structure and you can put a lot of weight on it and you can live your life. So tonight, we've got a lot of new people. We're booking out weeks ahead of time. So we're booking new patient deals for Friday, July 13th. We've got a few spots there. If people want to get signed up, pull the trigger now. If you wait, and if you continue to do what you've always done, if you wait and put it off, things are just going to get worse. If you know somebody, get them in here. What we're going to start doing is offering certain days of the month. We're going to have about 1 or 2 Fridays each month where that's the only day we're going to accept new patients. That's going to be a new open enrollment, we're going to call it, because people are already familiar with that concept. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, I'm going on vacation here for a little bit. The girls are going to be here. We're here for another 2 weeks. I go on vacation for a little bit. We come back after July 4th, and that first Friday afterwards is July 13th. And that's when we're going to see our first new patients after the break. So we're going to start doing that very soon. I want to give you guys warning on that. So if you know people that need to get in here, get them in here. It's going to be Fridays. I can't make it on Fridays. Okay, we can write your doctor's note. My signature carries weight just like any other doctor. I can get you out of work, I can get you out of school, but we're gonna have wives bring their husbands, and then following that, when they sign up, will be a boot camp where we dump all the information on them and tell them, this is what we're doing with your diet, this is what we're doing here, this is what we're doing there. It's gonna be so much easier and streamlined, and that way we'll be able to run a lot of new patients through all at once instead of getting stuck in the middle of days. Boom, 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 visit to visit, and then having to slow down for a new patient. It's a real energy drain for a lot of us. So that's what we're doing. I wanted to share that with all of you. That's rolling out. Our new patient exams are going up from 180 to 210 too after that break. So you'll want to get people in here right away, and that will qualify a lot of people to get in here right now because we're not playing around. Our intention is way up here. Our intention, we're going to take over this town. I'm telling you. I'm warning you. I'm letting you know. I'm prophesying it to you now ahead of time that we will shut down Goliath. So that's what we're going to do. So July 13th is our next open enrollment for new patients. Any questions on any of that?
So how do you do that?
Just give a call or get scheduled with Sarah at the front desk on your way out. We're going to have food. Faye, you've got food and refreshments and stuff afterwards. So we're going to mill around, and we can do a little tour of the office too if y'all want to get familiar with kind of more of what we do. Show you exactly what the laser is, show you what the detox unit, the sauna is, and then if you'd like, we can do a little screening and show you exactly how the nutrition works. So if you want to do that after we do the the food and the refreshments and things like that, let us know. We'll do a little tour. Everybody will gather in the middle. I'll give a yell, and everybody can gather in the middle if you want to do the tour and see how we actually do the screening for nutrition response testing.
Giveaways. They're over by your mag.
Hold on, before you do that.
Question? Yeah, Facebook. I put that off for a while.
Karen Williams, it's not a question, it's just add in what you were talking about earlier with people having stress tests done. She said she has 2 personal friends that died during their cardiac stress test.
She's a nurse,
2
by the way.
personal friends.
Cardiac stress test.
Yep.
Oh,
That's a nurse right there. She's patient.
So that's the only one.
bad shape.
There's
Yeah.
plenty of other comments, but they were all.
Is that the one from before, the question that you had?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Karen. Love you.
So let's sign off with this.
Love you. Okay, any other questions? You good?
What's R&D on the GMO?
Research and development.
Okay.
Research and development. Okay, Facebook, thank you for tuning in. Sorry we had a little, our regular audio video guy was not here this week, but hey, we improvised anyway. So get in here, share this video, like it, thumbs up, spread it, spread the love. Everybody needs to know this. Thank you.